When we're saying in the beginning was the Word, in the Bible, the actual word that is used in Greek is logos. In the beginning was the logos. Now, if you want to understand logos, we don't have a one-word equivalent for logos. We have to use very different words. But there's one way of using the word word that gives you almost the entire meaning. If I were to come up to you and say about anything, and I would say to you, what's the word on this? What am I asking you for? Am I asking you for one word?
No.
What is it if I ask you, what is the word on this topic? I'm asking you to give me what's going on, what's the meaning of it, the purpose, what are the reasons behind it. I am asking you for the logos. And so if you begin to take just a few synonyms, for example, three synonyms that I like to use for logos: meaning, purpose, and reason. And so you might be able, you can just as easily translate the Gospel of John to mean, in the beginning there was meaning, purpose, and reason. Meaning, purpose, and reason was with God. Meaning, purpose, and reason was God. Meaning, purpose, and reason became flesh and dwelt amongst us. So any time that you have meaning, purpose, and reason, especially, you're dealing with some aspect of God, of God's revelation. Meaning that all of your faith, is open to the questions of meaning, purpose, and reason. And you are obliged to ask those questions. One of the things I brought up this morning is that in the book of Job, for example, Job loses everything because Satan wants to put him to the test. And God says, go, because Satan accuses Job. One of the interesting things about development of ideas is that when you open the book of Job, Satan is part of the heavenly court. He's not yet considered to be in hell. And so Satan goes up to God and says, you know your servant Job? He's really good, isn't he? But he's only good because you treat him so kindly. Because, sure, anybody would be good if they got everything they wanted. And God said, no, Job is a good man. And Satan basically says, I bet you he isn't. And God says, okay, I'll take the bet. And so he lets Satan take Job and destroy him, but he's prohibited from taking Job's life. And so when Job is totally ruined, 3 friends come to see him. And his 3 friends argue that something he has done is wrong. He has committed some sin. He's just forgotten what it is. Because bad things only happen to bad people. And so Job says, I have not committed any sin. And the friend said, yes, you have. You just don't know what it is. And Job goes so far as to say, I dare God to go to court with me. I am challenging God to a court battle because I am innocent. And of course, the speeches are fairly long. But at the very end of the book, Job sticks to his gun and God begins to speak. And he condemns his 3 friends. Because he is basically saying to his 3 friends, you wanted to answer a reasonable question by a superficial answer. And you were not willing to question. And so he condemns the 3 friends for accusing Job. And he says, Job, you are correct. But then he says, but you don't understand. And you never will. You are welcome to question. Just never expect that you're going to be able to reach the ultimate mysteries of God with your question. But you must question. You must. So one of my favorite ways to to talk about God is the reality that is infinitely comprehensible. Now think about those two terms. Infinite comprehensibility. The more you understand about God, the more you understand that there's more to understand. Okay? But you always ask. So as Catholics, you should always ask questions. And ask questions with your reason. Seek it. If God is reasonable. And the church exists for no other reason. Notice the word. For no other reason than to help you become a whole human being. Remember, the word holy comes directly from the word whole. Total. It means a person who is whole the way God intended that person to be. And so anything that the church puts out has to help you become whole in the image and likeness of God. And being whole in the image and likeness of God is to be holy. To be holy does not mean to do weird practices, to do wacky stuff, and what is it? St. Teresa of Avila used to say, and it's right in one of our plates right next to St. Cyril of Alexandria. It says there, from superficial, St. Teresa of Avila, from superficial and silly devotions, God deliver us. Okay? Because there are many devotions that are superficial and silly. And it's just that people have done them for so long that they don't want to question them. Now, could there be something, just like, for example, with the whole issue of relics? Now, there is solid anthropological basis for being in the presence of part of a person's body. Okay? Part of a person. That's why you go to a gravesite. Can you take it too much? Yeah, you can really. Catholics, just like Protestants, can't become wacky. Okay? There is such a thing as wacky Catholicism. Okay? You just have to, and the people who are the wackiest are some of the most devout. Always remember, devotion does not equal truth. Okay? You might have this tattooed somewhere. If someone's not telling you a lie, they are therefore, and a lot of times people say, telling you the truth. No. If someone's not telling you a lie, they are being sincere. They could be sincerely wrong. Right? So always remember, ask questions. Be reasonable. Now, apply that to Lent. I bet you thought I would have forgotten about it. Now, apply all of this to Lent. And let's take the whole point of Lent is to help you become whole. Why? Because you're not. And neither am I. The very definition of being human is to be broken. Another name for that we give is sin. Sin is the fact that your character is somehow broken and unreal. To a certain degree, you are a fake human being. To a certain degree, and you don't even know how. You just are a fake human being. The only true human being ever is Jesus. Jesus is the only true human being. He is the normal. It's interesting because when Jesus says, love one another as I have loved you, you notice what he's doing? He is placing his own behavior as the definition of love. He doesn't give you words. He is saying, my behavior is to be the definition of love. So, Lent is specifically to help you to reconnect with the whole you. The you that is in the image and likeness of God. Now, like other things, it is different practices that have evolved over time in a community. Being Catholic also means that some of those practices you are part of the community that has all of those practices. But all of those practices are not going to be the same for you. There are some practices in the church that I find totally distasteful, yet they are acceptable. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean that God is not behind the authentic understanding of those practices. So, very much like referencing the relics and other kinds of practices. So, when you approach Lent, always remember that the whole point of Lent is to approach it reasonably and with the target of helping you become a more holy human being in the image and likeness of Jesus. How that is going to play out is going to be different for each one of us. You are going to experience practices that have been carried on by the community. But the community practices are not necessarily the ones that may fit you. You may want to do them, even though they're not in sync with you, just to remind yourself that you're greater than just one person. You're part of a community. Okay? So, but before I get too far ahead of this, there are three sources of Lent. In the ancient Christian church, there was a 2-day fast called the Easter fast. Okay, the Easter fast was 2 days. And of course, it was moving towards Easter. Okay? People would fast just for a couple of days during Easter. Now, I'm going to tell you some things that I can't get into because I have 15 minutes left. In the ancient Christian tradition, confession was only allowed once during your lifetime. You could only go to confession one time during your lifetime. And it better be good. Okay? It better be good. Confession on demand only began after the first millennium. Okay? After the first millennium. And so, when people would do horrendous things, and it had to be a horrendous thing, they would go into what's called an order of penitence. And the order of penitence is, in order to receive confession, you didn't say absolution, you didn't get 3 Hail Marys and 3 Our Fathers. You had to do 40 days of penance. And it was public penance. And the beginning of that public penance was that you dressed in the poorest clothes you had, and you came to where the bishop was, and the bishop took ashes and dumped them all over you. To remind you that you were a sinner and you needed to be reconciled with the community. Now folks, this is not for impatience and, lying or stuff like that. We're talking heavy-duty big ones, okay? And so there was a ritual called that people wanted to be it was almost like if you were excommunicated and you wanted to come back in. Okay? There was the order of penitence. Does penitence have 2 ends? Penitence. Okay. Now, the order of penitence was also getting to be reconciled by Easter. That's when they would get absolution. Okay?